When you say the village, it is true.
Yeah.
But guess what? I'm a girl who was not supported by my own village. So went out and I created a whole different village
Yeah.
who actually supported me. Yeah. To your child, talk to your child, engage with your child, praise your child, protect them, make them feel safe and special. That's all you need. And they are brilliant in their own ways.
Yeah.
We are constantly wanting to make our children doctors or engineers or something. What we should do is that we need to support them to reach their highest potential.
Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is a teacher. She has been an early childhood teacher for a very, very long time. What is more impressive is that she did this with being a mother, having been married, and in a whole different country from where she was born. Today, she is owning and running her own preschool, and that comes with its own different challenges and own different experiences. So in this episode, we speak a lot about how parents can support the child in the first 7 years and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So if you're a parent or if you are an early childhood teacher who wants to become a better teacher, or if you're a parent to a young child today and you want to be better parents and you want to create the right environment for the child, then this is an episode that you must absolutely watch till the very end. At the end of this episode, we've created a small clip where Saheli tells the most recommended books for teachers as well as parents. Now, on to the show. Hi, Saheli.
Hi, Priya. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining the Out of Office show. And I'm extremely excited because I finally, for the very first time, have a teacher on my show.
That's lovely to know. And this is the very first time I'm coming to a podcast at all. I do a lot of presentations and talking and all that, but podcast is the first
This is
time.
the first time. I'm
Yes.
glad. I'm glad Out of Office show is your debut.
Thank you.
Super cool. So I
Yeah.
think there's so much to talk about today, so much to bring out and put to this world.
Yeah.
There are so many things that are unknown. There are so many myths that we will debunk about early childhood education.
Yes.
About kids that we don't know about, right? And of course, your journey, because you've had a fantastic, phenomenal journey.
Thank you for saying that, though. Thank you for saying that. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. So, fantastic, phenomenal journey starting from your hometown, which is
Kolkata,
in India,
yeah.
then going ahead and doing your postgraduate in early childhood education
Yes.
in America, and all of this while being married. And
With a child.
with a child,
Yes.
and then coming back to Singapore and now owning and running a school.
Yeah.
Which
It's been
is-
only 1 year, though.
Yeah.
Just started. Yeah.
Jumping into entrepreneurship,
Yes.
basically. And that is very, very interesting story. We've got a lot to, debunk.
You get to know everything. I'll tell you everything.
Fantastic. So let's start with a very simple question. How are you feeling today?
I'm very excited and very happy, very privileged. That's the right word. Very privileged. Yes. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you. So now let's start from the very, very, beginning of your story. Right? Let's start from there and then we will follow through into today. You're a Bengali woman.
I'm Bengali, very much Bengali.
And you started your journey after, of course, you lived in Calcutta, you grew up, you studied there. Then at some point in time, you got married.
Yes, very early. I was only 23 years old, fresh graduated from college. I wanted to study more. I actually I applied to NYU. I wanted to study criminology. But my mom was like, no, you should first get married and then do whatever you need to do.
How old
You
were
have
you
to-
again? Sorry? 23.
Just graduated college and 22 graduate college. And then,
Looking for
I wanted to study more. Yes, I wanted to study. Either if I stay in India, I was planning on doing legal studies or get into the administrative IAS. I was studying for that. Or I would have been a human rights lawyer. It was something, legality was my main goal at all times.
Right. You wanted to become a lawyer.
Human rights.
Human rights lawyer.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Because I am being able to resonate to this a bit because I've also heard my mom and many women of that generation, that 10, 20 years that is there of that generation, where you have got a degree, which is brilliant because that's a big step forward from the generation before, where a degree may or may be.
It was a question. It was not always. People used to go to college just to get married.
Exactly.
Yes, but not all families.
Yeah.
My family was different. There were families who were doctors and engineers, and they had done lawyers, and they were amazing people. But then but it was not very common, and especially the caste system, which was very predominant there. I don't know what it is now. The caste I came from was not so much academically inclined.
Right.
It was a little different, not so advanced.
Okay,
Yeah.
very interesting. So what I've noticed is that usually the generation of parents who realize that education is needed definitely go all in, and I'm talking about Bengali parents here.
Yes.
They go all in, teach their kids. Daughters are probably an engineer from some of the really top schools. They work for about 1 to 2 years, and then after that it's like, okay, now you get married.
Yes.
Right, because that is a form of security, was a form of security even then.
That's a present day norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was present day norm.
Yeah. Getting married?
Get security, get education properly, education, then get married. You know, that is now it's happening pretty common now.
Except now, what we are also seeing is that women are not just marriage is not for security anymore.
Yes.
All right. And I think that's changed because now it's like, first, we want to be able to experience everything. Not everything, but marriage is also an experience.
Yes.
And that will come at the time when we want it to come, but we're ready for it. And I'm saying because I've also
Yes,
I
you went through that.
that.
Yes.
But yeah, experience everything, whether it is traveling, work, going and figuring out what we really want to do in life, do that.
Understand yourself.
Understand yourself.
Have a relationship with yourself first.
Correct.
And then have a relationship with someone else.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, going back, so I think that generation, or that the parents in that generation were better, of more forward thinking than their parents, but I think they were still very much about, let's get married soon. Like, this is the...
Yes, yes, that was very much there. In my case, most of even if I get in touch with my college friends now, or some friends, some of them I went to high school with, it's so funny. They remind me that my mom was so protective of me. She was always worried. I don't know if you're aware of it. When you pick your own husband, it's called love marriage in India. You see that you bring shame to the family. It was that kind of attitude was there. But if your parents are choosing for you, that's perfect. That's the mentality my mom had. And she was always so worried. And all she wanted was me to get married. And she started looking for a guy even when I was in 10th grade. Yes, that's the truth.
Wow.
And she was waiting that the moment I turned 18, because the law was very strong at that time in India, girl had to be 18 to get married. Otherwise, you end up in jail. And my father was in the central government. He was a central government employee. So I used to tell my parents, you can't get me married before 18. So my mom was like, she's too smart. But that was the thing. But yes, so I come from a family where I have cousins girls who went to med school and became doctors. And I do have, education was very important there. It was just my mom who kind of was always like, no, we have to get her married, because she was always worried about, what if she might bring shame to the family? And I do not know why. For her, it was very important that I go to an English medium school.
Yeah.
And I get to speak English. That was very important for her. But she didn't really see far. She didn't have those kind of aspirations. Sisters were different. She was different. I do not know why, but she was not. But at this moment, when whatever I do, she finds it amazing that I didn't think of this. I didn't think of you'll be able to do things like this, and you were. It's beyond her imagination. That part is there.
Brilliant, amazing. Okay, so let's what I actually love, and because I already know a little bit, so I just want to tell it out there. What I really love is that even though you were asked to get married, we make a decision of first get married and then experience, still manage to not make the familial identity your only identity. I feel like a lot of women, not just in India, everywhere around the world, tend to take up your familial identity as your only identity, and that's it. That should be an addition. Usually in the case of men, it's an addition. A father or a husband is an addition to what they are doing. But you didn't do that. You basically went ahead and still created your own identity on top of your familial identity. regardless of being
Yeah.
married, and you are what you are today. I want to touch on this journey, and let's start from the beginning.
Okay, so the whole thing is that, as I mentioned, my mom was trying to get me married even when I was in 10th grade. The first proposal came, and when I said, no, I don't want this, she said, oh, no, when you have a daughter who's pretty, it's normal. It's not normal. But my father was not exactly very healthy, and my mom's thing was, oh, it's a girl. She still believes in that. Oh, it's a girl, get her married and get her settled, and everything will go back, everything will be settled. But that's not the way life works in the present day world. Now, my mom was different. She was not, I would say, visionary or progressive enough to understand that, but my dad was. Coming back to my father was very progressive, and he saw in his family, my aunt was a principal of a school, and she had her master's and she wrote books and stuff like that, and her daughter is a doctor also, and she's 18 years older than me, and she was the first doctor in our family and in our community. As I mentioned, I'm not from the caste system that I come from, not exactly very academically inclined. They were business oriented people. Their money meant everything, not so much education. Now things have changed, which is amazing, but at that point of time it wasn't. And I don't think my mom saw to it. My mom was like, no. But anyway, coming back to it, I kind of fought it, that no, I wanted to study. And I want you to know something. There was, my grandmother never studied beyond fourth grade. And when my grandfather died, she was only 28 with 4 children. She didn't have any kind of pension. She didn't have any kind of government support. I don't know if you know, India just freshly got independence from the British, and India had a lot of financial baggages at that time. So India did not support, I'm not so sure about now. India was not like giving money out, handouts to anybody. So my father had a very difficult childhood. And my grandmother made it a point that education, we are the kind of family where education is our ticket to a better world. And my father ingrained that thing in my head that that's the way to be. And I pretty much raised my daughter the same way, that not to be entitled, to be hardworking. Now, when it comes to success, success does not mean that you live in $1 million house or drive a Bugatti or a Ferrari. That's not success. Success is when you grow from, it's a story of a zero to hero. That no one expected anything of you, and you worked your way up, understood your self-worth, you're disciplined, and you make it in life, you're self-motivated, and you bring yourself to a position. So you're independent, and you support yourself, you're not answerable, but you live your life in your own terms. So in my case, what happened is that I got married, yes, but I would say I did have a lot of support from my husband. He let me go back to school and he let me study. So when we first moved to Singapore, I was depressed for a really long time because all my friends they were doing masters or MBA or they were traveling, and they had something looking up, and I was the first one to get married and I had a child. So that got me into depression. So in the meantime, in 2004, when I first traveled to the United States, I think I did mention there used to be a TV channel that was called Lifetime. I used to watch it in the afternoon, and it was always telling stories to women: be independent, be self-reliant, get an education, focus on yourself and how to be strong. It's actually the story of how to be strong. That kind of inspired me. So then I came to Singapore and I was like, I need to do something. I cannot be like this. So
How many years into the marriage?
I got married in November, and this is 2004. 2002, I had my baby, and 2004, I was in the States, and in 2005, I came to Singapore, and I was like, okay, fine, we are going to live in Singapore for a while. Maybe we'll settle here. Not 100%, I knew I might be moving, but at least a couple of years. So I thought, I need to do something. I didn't know what I need to do, but I knew I need to do something. In the meantime, and my daughter was already 3 years old, she did not know how to read. She did not know the colors and numbers. She knew nothing, and she was 3 years old. When I met other parents, because she never went to a preschool. She went to a preschool, she was like, for a play group kind of thing. But when I met other parents, their children were doing amazing. Like, some of the children knew the songs and all of that. And I was like, she doesn't even know which is yellow and what is red. And it doesn't look good on me. She was 3+. So I thought, what can I do to change this? So I joined the Montessori training, got trained, mainly for my daughter, worked with her, and it had amazing results. In the meantime, she was going to GIIS at that time. And the whole thing was that I knew if I joined that school as a teacher, she'll get some kind of subsidy. So when we first moved to Singapore, we were expats. So everything was paid by my husband's company. But then we were no more expats. So everything is supposed to come from our pocket. So I thought, how about I join that school and she gets, teacher's concession. And that was basically the motivation. In the meantime, I finished my course.
And the course was in Singapore?
In Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was basically from a British foundation. And anyway, I did that course, but my daughter benefited a lot because in 1 year's time, she was not only just reading, she was writing, she was doing math till addition till thousands and all that. She was pretty amazing. Like, because I was so focused, she was going to school, but I was really focused on her. So then that kind of got me that what can I do? How can an environment, in Montessori, that's a very important thing, create an environment that helps a child develop. So that, she was my guinea pig, basically. So that's how I learned. And I was working at the school. And in the meantime, we got transferred. We went to the United States again.
Yeah.
So.
Brilliant. I mean, some of the really good success stories for entrepreneurs starts from a problem that started at home.
It's always...
That's personal.
Do you know there's a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Believe in that.
People say they also say laziness is the mother of invention.
Yeah, but
But yes.
Yeah, I was really impatient. I have noticed one thing in myself. This is a self-reflection when I was doing something during the COVID, and I realized I have to be really impatient, uneasy, and depressed. You put me in that, I think that's the iron thing. Then I'm like, no, I'm not taking it. I have to change this because what can you do? You stay stuck in a situation. You have to find a way to get out of it. And you think and think. And I thought, how can I solve my problem? My daughter does not know how to read. I want she was a smart little girl. Why will she be left behind? What can I do to change this? How do I change?
I have a couple more questions in this. So let's double click in this space. So what happened that led you to the uncomfortable situation that you're talking about in the first place? What was happening in you that led you to these and experiences? And second, so I didn't understand how, with preschools and schools out there that your daughter was going to, why was she still lagging behind compared to the others?
Okay. So first thing is that why was I so unhappy? I was unhappy because I moved to a new country. Singapore was from India, from Mumbai. We were living in Mumbai, and from there we came to Singapore. Didn't have a good pool of friends, very restricted. At the same time, yes, my daughter she was going to GIIS. She had an amazing teacher, actually. And I'm still friends with that teacher because she's the lady who I went and asked. She's the one who said that next year it's going to be K1. These are the things she's lagging. I asked her, what can I do to help her? And then she said that, and I found out what course she did in a parent-teachers meeting, and she said, you know what, you can go ahead and do it. Then I said, yes, I can. And she gave me that idea. Go ahead, do this. So in life, you always have to make sure the kind of people you're coming across who are motivating you to move forward and do good things, positive things, and they are helping you to solve the problem. So my husband was always traveling. I was alone with my daughter in a country I barely knew anybody. So, and I homesick, not exactly. I was an explorer all my life. So I did explore. But the thing is that there was a kind of uneasiness that what can I do to change this? So I can pick up the phone and complain to my friends, which I used to do. I was complaining about my husband. I was complaining about my life. But then I said, it's like, what do I say? A wheel for the hamster wheel. Keeps on going and going. I need to get out of this cycle. How can I do that? Go get a course. Do something constructive. And it actually helped. I still remember when I decided to take the course, I still remember there were some relatives who said, oh, you're going back to India eventually. Don't do this in Singapore. You won't get a job in India with this. Then I was like, I don't care. Right now, I need to do this. I need to keep myself busy. I need to teach my daughter. I need to find a solution to the problem I'm having right now.
Yeah. I love this part where you said, I don't care,
Yeah, it was tough.
Just taking some learnings from spirituality and learnings from also a lot of other leaders that are out there. They keep saying that, when you're in this journey of self-transformation, the first thing you do is shut out everything. You're only looking inside.
Yes.
Yeah, so you just
validated that. It was tough for me, though. It was tough for me because the course that I was doing, the amount of money, I was like, who should I ask for?
It's expensive.
It's expensive course. But the fun part was the company my husband was working still, they were giving something called wife relocation money. Here they give Most of the people, do you know what they did? They went ahead and bought plasma TV or LCD TV, or they bought jewelry. I begged my husband, give me the money, I want to study. This is what I told him. Okay, my husband is very money minded, so he's very cautious. So I told him, look, if I spend this money in the course, I can get a job and it will come back, and your daughter will benefit too. He understood that. I spoke his mind. I spoke to him in his language. So that very simple language that I'm like, don't buy. If you buy, he still says, oh, you didn't buy diamond. But imagine the job I got. I always worked ever since. This is 2007. No, this is 2005. I started in 2006. And ever since I've been working, imagine how much, I have no savings. I've given him everything. But I worked and I raised his child. So that it benefited that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you didn't spend that money on diamond.
Yes, yes. Not into anything like that anyway.
I mean, it's also such a bad investment. It doesn't sell eventually.
Yes, eventually, yeah. But there's a saying, diamonds are the girl's best friends.
Yeah.
There's a song, I don't know how much. But the thing is that for me, I would say education is the way to be. I still believe it. My grandma said that. My dad said that. I believe in it because I'm living it. There's nothing more important than education. If anybody, I always say, if you want to invest in something, invest in education, because you can lose a house, you can lose a car, you can lose jewelry. Your degree is going to always pay your bills. That is something you earn. It's going to stay with you forever. And no one can take it away from you.
Yes.
So it's very important for me.
Amazing. So degrees in education, the new diamond and the new girl's best friend.
Yes, yes. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
There was a time when my grandmothers, both sides, mom's mom and dad's mom, they didn't have that opportunity. They both got married, one in 12 years old, one in 14. Wow. That's the time they got married. They did not know even what education is. They could just write their name, sign their name, or read the basic. But us, we're having this opportunity. I find it really difficult to understand when girls don't take education seriously. I really find it hard. I mean, that's a personal pet peeve, you can say. I take it because I also had to fight. You see, my mom was getting me married and I fought. And I was like, I kept on saying, oh, if I do this, and I kept on going, So it was tough. So I'm very big, what I would say, for education. Yeah, advocate for that.
Do you agree that education nowadays not just comes from degrees, but it can come from...
Absolutely. One thing is there. I'm so proud to say this to you, that so many notions, growing up, I had so many notions that kept on changing, and I'm going to be 50 soon, and it's still changing. There was a time I believed, oh, a person is so well read, so well educated, has degrees, must be really smart. Then I found out, no. I mean, it was a time when I used to think, oh, if a woman is a homemaker, is a housewife, I didn't look down upon them. I'm honestly telling you this. Then I realized, I'm telling you, recently after I returned from I became friends with a neighbor. We were always hi and hello, but we were never friends. And she has 4 children, and she is a housewife. She does amazing work. She's always working behind, running around with children, bringing them to schools and this and that. So many things. Her calendar is way full than mine. The way she's raising her children, and I have so much respect for her. And I even her. Before I met you, I never really respected housewives. I know what an amazing job you do. Because it's not that I did not respect it. You see, women are always taken for granted for doing chores in the house and not really respected. Those works are important and they need to be done. It's not that. I never liked the life of entitled people. Let me just say that. Yeah. But this lady, and I was like, oh my, thing changed. Like there was a time when I felt, the Hispanic people, when I used to work in US, they are a certain way. This people, the Filipinos, are a certain way. But as I went through life experiences, I realized you cannot put people in a box. There are people who are so different, they're so diverse, and you cannot know these people until and unless you go out and meet other people. And you're not restricted in you're not the frog of the well. Yeah, you have to go out and meet, and only then
change
everything. My notions keep changing all the time.
But it's wonderful that you are adaptable to this change, because if there is something always constant, it is this.
Yes, change is the only constant,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And many people are not adaptable. So if something is different than what they thought, they hold on their notion.
Yeah.
I believe that comes from the point of psychological safety more than anything.
Yeah, being comfortable.
That.
Yes, but one thing I've learned very early on, if you stay in your comfort zone, you're never growing. You have to come out. I was really young. My father told me one thing. Do you know? Still, I'm telling you this. I was 7 or 8 years old. He told me one thing was the dinosaurs went extinct. They were not adaptable creatures. They couldn't
Cockroaches
adapt.
were.
Cockroach stayed. I don't like cockroaches, but they stayed. You need to learn a lesson.
Oh my God, cockroaches can live without their heads for 7 days.
Yes, I know about that.
That's how adaptable they
That's
are.
how adaptable they are. Yeah.
Anyway, moving on from cockroaches, right? Okay, so you got your education in Singapore, and then you decided to move to America at some point in time. Or
My
no?
husband got transferred.
Okay.
It's because of him we got transferred.
Okay.
And when I went to US, I was like, now it's my opportunity. I'm here. Let me study. I always wanted to study there. So I waited for 1 year. You know, there are a lot of visa issues and legalities and all that. I'm staying away from there. But the thing is that I stayed for 1 year and then I went to the nearest community college and I wanted to study English because in India and in Singapore, you learn English in the British in a different style. Americans are different. So I really wanted to study something, but they said, no, your education, I had to reevaluate all degrees from India. And then they said, okay, fine, you do have a bachelor's. They don't accept all universities. United States is they're very this. You have to come from certain only universities in India that they accept internationally accredited. Luckily, mine was
Which university was this?
Calcutta University.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so then got in, but still they were not convinced my English was good enough. So before I took
Which
any
is
classes,
right in English.
I know, but they don't. They don't. I'm from India. They automatically put me in a category. Oh, English is not your first language, so I don't think you'll be able to adjust here. So I was like, no. Then what do I do? They said, okay, you have to take ABCD classes. I said, fine. But I'm so glad I took them. They benefited me so much. They're still benefiting me because when I'm going back, so I can teach English language in American or British Cambridge schools up till middle school. And that got me the base over there because the way English is taught I don't Indian system, but the way English is taught in the local system here in Singapore is different from the way it's taught in British and American.
Tell me some examples.
The important thing is that for them, you have to it's a lot of comprehension, composition, thinking skills, critical thinking, writing, and reading.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have grammar and vocab.
Okay. So okay.
Local schools do it, but they're not as intense as American and British.
Right.
Americans are really particular with writing. Like, even if you are in primary 1 and 2, like they call it grade 1 and 2, they will teach you have to write a descriptive, you have to write a narrative, you have to write a compare contrast or persuasive. So, and this is what the American school system does from grade 2, grade 2, grade 3 until college. Even in college, those are the kind of English you have to write. Essays you have to write. Even if you're applying for
A college,
you have to write essays and your essays matter and you have to persuade why you should be. So that's how every country had their own system, ways. So this is how their way is. And I got trained there. So my bachelor's, of course, history and political science, major with education in India, which I'm actually very proud of my education there. I cannot say no because I really liked my subject. So I don't have anything about any education system. But I know one thing is that when a child is young, one thing that I learned in my early childhood in US, but I do value a lot about my American education because they taught me that a child matters, create a proper environment, respect the child, follow the child, and create an environment where you don't have to, the child is not an empty vessel that you're teaching. That's very traditional. And in Montessori or present day world, it's you create an environment, the child learns happily. You don't have to ask a child to go to the playground. They love to go play. Why are they always ready to read and write? You have to bring that joy in that education. You have to make education hands-on and fun. Then they will learn. But at the same time, there always have to be discipline. But discipline should not be this thing between discipline and punishment. Everything comes with respect. Like, respect a child. You tell the ground rules. We have it at our school. We always say, these are the ground rules. Let's follow it. Are you following the ground rules? Like a constitution in a country. You need to follow the constitution, the laws.
Yeah.
The same way, there are ground rules. Now, children, will they stray? Yes, because they're children. We bring them back. So that is the biggest lesson that I learned in the States. That
Creating
I
the
did not,
environment.
yes, creating an environment, making a child feel safe, happy.
Yeah.
That's the number one job of a teacher. When the child comes to school, he should come happy. He or she should come happy, go home happy, and the school environment, school should be the magical place. This is my thing that Disney, if you go to Walt Disney, at Disneyland, they said, oh, this is a magical place.
Yeah.
In my belief system, school should be a magical place.
Like the Hogwarts of,
Yes,
of
yes,
religion.
yes, kind of. But in a Montessori environment, we do not believe in make believe or something that is fairy tale. So everything has to be real because the real world is very exciting for a child.
Very,
That's-
very interesting. What the American education that you took was different from the Montessori education that you took in Singapore?
So I did do Montessori in Singapore, which was a British run.
Yeah. Okay.
British run. Then I did, when I went to work in United States in a Montessori school, I realized it was very different.
Tell us more.
It was very hands-on, very child-centric, preparing the child for independence. Singapore, I think because of the culture, it's very academic and teacher directed. It's Montessori, it's phonics, it's all of that, but the teacher gives direction and the child works. Not purely Montessori. Yeah, it was not there. But you need to know, I also have early childhood in a non-Montessori. So I have 3 teaching credentials. One British Montessori, one American Montessori, another early childhood. So I mix all of it and that's how I teach. Everywhere, child is number one. Follow the child. Now, follow the child does not mean the child is entitled to walk all over you. You don't cater the child. You create an environment where the child is in a position that he or she is important enough to independently work. We cannot do that in Singapore. Because of EGDA, that's early childhood, they have certain regulations, safety regulations that we have to follow. Children are supposed to cut their own snack and eat. That's in US. They're also very strict licensing, but they also know they have where children can cut and things,
How do you knife to a child?
It's not a knife. They do have, that's what I say, they had different tools for Montessori tools, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's like
So-
more plastic.
Metal, but they do it in a different way.
Okay.
But they are made by Montessori. What do I say? There are Montessori tools, graded tools, and
Okay.
Montessori furniture. There are companies who only make Montessori stuff. So they have it. They're very specific, very expensive, but they have it.
The moment I hear specific expensive, in my head, I'm like, market to disrupt, market to.
No, they have been planned. First, I was not planning to buy the school that I have at this moment. I was planning to start something.
Yeah.
And I got a place, so I was budgeting and that how many shelves, how many tables, how many chairs, the materials. So and then in that I had all of that. There's a very famous company, it's called Neen House. You buy all that stuff from there, which is very expensive. But now Chinese products, there's some really good Chinese companies who make amazing Montessori things.
Yeah.
So they sent their stuff, their catalogs, and I was doing all of that. But this particular school doesn't have it. But I have a plan. First, I needed to work on the curriculum, and then little by little,
Yeah.
I will, change stuff.
We'll come to the experience in the Singapore you now own and run, which is First Step. So we'll talk a bit more about this, actually a lot more about this. So we'll come to that. But tell me, you've done all these educations in America. Then what happened after you finished all your so far, and then
I also worked. You also work, so kind of, while you're studying. So I did work and I was able to work in certain schools that were Montessori. And I also got to observe schools which were non-Montessori. So, but the thing is that's the bottom line I came up to. Even in Singapore, that's the bottom thing I came up to. It has to be child-centric. Create an environment, have a theme. So now there are different kinds. There's Montessori. I'm not saying I did get trained in Montessori, but I'm not saying that's the best only. There's Reggio Emilia, and there are other concepts, Waldorf, and they're different concepts. Kindergarten itself is about child development and a garden of children. So all these philosophers, what they were doing is that they were trying to create an education that is going to engage the child and get them ready for primary school. Basically, that's how it is. That was the whole concept of having preschool. Before that, preschool was not even there. They were only you go to school and you learn this. Preschools came because they thought that it's very important for children to learn. Now, the concept is from birth till 7 years is the ultimate time.
Wow, I'm so glad.
Extremely important time.
Yes, yes.
That's the time, create the rules. That's the foundation.
Yes, yes.
It's not study, have fun. That's the time when a child is supposed to be so happy, should have such a positive feeling about school that the rest, after kindergarten, when they go to primary, secondary, middle school and secondary, it's not, nobody's going to treat you the way kindergarten teachers.
Yeah.
You go to school, they hug you. You are important. That's the concept. That's not how it's going to be. Primary still a little bit, not in secondary.
Yeah. So how do they make this switch?
Because of the class size and because you're treated to be independent. You're not the center of, because kindergarten and preschools, you're coming from home. At home, you are loved. You are the most cherished one, not at school. So the whole purpose of preschool and our job is to make children get ready for primary. We want them to be independent, but we still want them to be loved. We want them to be supported. We want families to be supported too. In my opinion, I would say, so I had a really name as a helicopter mom, that I'm always watching over my child because my life was ended by my child. I would do anything and everything only for her.
Right.
So that is another thing that little by little I was trying to move away. That, she needs to have her life. She needs to be an independent person, human being. And I need to also focus into something of all my education and all this thing need to, I invested a lot of money in all of this. So, and then I have a lot, and there are other first-time parents. They should benefit from that. Yeah. And I love my job. Honestly, I just want you to know that day in and day out, I love my job. That's it. I love to go in the classroom. I love to teach. I want, when a child is able to read, that makes my day. Or a child is able to, compute math. That's it.
Wow. Tell me more stories because, or maybe, the very first time that it's had ever happened to you when you saw a child progress to the next stage. So reading or being
Yes.
able to form that sentence. So tell me a story that impacted you.
I told my daughter was my guinea pig. I was like, how did she even do that? How she picked. As a mother, you thought, oh, my daughter is so smart. No, all children are smart.
Yeah.
You just have to understand how to work with them. So at my school, I did that. US, one thing at US was different. Singapore is different. Singapore, I'm bringing parents in. I'm telling them, do this, this. You help your child. These are the sounds. First, introduce the sounds. And then do the initial. Play I Spy games. This is a window. Window. Lamp. Lamp. Once they know all the sounds. And show them what, you basically show them the sounds. And then initial sounds, you practice with them. And then blend it together. And a word is made. And from 3-letter words, then you do 4-letter words, and there are blends and so many things. And then you introduce sight words. And in 1 or 2 months, a child can read if you're diligent, if you're disciplined. It's not impossible. It can be done.
And at any, what is the right age for this?
Right age is 3 to 4. Actually, in US, 4-year-olds read because they are also a little different. You have to understand English is the mother tongue to most of the children. Even if you are a Chinese family or an Indian family, people speak to them. One of the parents do speak to them in English constantly because the moment you step out of the house, it's all English. And in Singapore, there's one thing there, which is, I feel, Singaporean schools, they do speak very good English, but local people, they don't really, the Singlish is there.
Yeah,
which is
many influences on
a lot of people coming from. This is also a cosmopolitan, but in America, generally, when you're sending a child to school, generally people speak. There's a standard. Even if in a school you're hired, you have to speak good English. Otherwise, they won't hire you.
Right.
Even if you don't a certain amount. I wouldn't consider that a racism kind of a thing, but they are particular. At least different communities are different. Also, I was in a predominantly educated high end with English was very, very like, you're a CEO or you're a neurosurgeon. You want you to have the basic,
Right.
So that also, if there's a book that's Unequal Childhood, so you see families, different families, they have different expectations. So when you come from certain kind of family, then this is what their expectations are. And the school that I have now, we have different families. We have a wide variety. We have families who are really affluent and not so affluent. But my thing is same education. I want to give everything to everybody. You get not treated differently. Every child is special. They will get the respect and love and the equal opportunity. Right. Doesn't matter what background. That's the difference I have. So some of the parents who are wonderful, they know how to educate, what to expect. Some of the parents, they're wonderful, but they do not know how to do it. So I bring them in. Some Saturdays, I go to work because I invite those parents and I tell them, look, this is what's going on in class. Why don't you do this with your child? This will benefit your child. So I personally feel if you can help the parents, you're actually helping the child. You're creating a community. It does not matter what your background is. It doesn't actually have to be. Every child should have an opportunity to good education. And that's how I do it. That's like, the basics. So sometimes I make those materials and I send it to them too.
Yeah.
And there's this little boy who was struggling to read. There was a holiday time, so I gave the materials to him, and some other people. I would just say, school stuff. I would say that you bring it, but remember not to lose it. Bring it back because I made them. So I will support. Yeah. So that is basic that I'm doing here.
Right. And then these kids learning how to.
They are. You see, children, I want you to understand one thing. Every child wants to learn. They want to be heard. They want to be taken seriously. The moment you give, they need recognition. The moment you do that, that's it. Their emotional needs are met. Once their emotional needs are met, they will flourish. That's the key. That's the key. 3 credentials. Yeah. That's the key that everybody says the same thing. Respect the child. Support the child.
Ways that parents or teachers today don't respect the child. So what are these actions that you can see that the child that actually directly impacts all the emotional needs of a child?
To be very honest with you, I've made that mistake myself. Being strict with children and not understanding boundaries and being strict are 2 different things.
Okay, explain.
The thing is that suppose a little girl, she doesn't know how to do it. Instead of supporting her, you're being strict with her. You're demoralizing her. Oh, you can't do it. Oh, do it again. That will, put her back in her shell. If you keep saying, let's do it. I know you can do it. Let's try it. Okay, is this hurt? Is this difficult? Okay, let's try it this way. Saying that. I'm not saying that, constantly. Sometimes if they are not following the rules, it's okay to be strict. Yeah. I'm not saying don't be, but supporting a child. Sometimes many families, they don't support child. And I will accept the fact that there were moments when I was the same way. I had to reel back because you have to understand, when you're a first-time parent, you're learning.
Yeah. And you are, told so many people.
Yes, letting her do it. You're not supposed to let her do it. So it's a big challenge for Parenting is a very big challenge, I personally feel. And a lot of parents, you'll see that, we also raised so many children. My mother-in-law would say, I raised both of them, and things were not. But the thing is that everything that a parent does has impact.
In fact, the first 7 years, going back to that, is very important. And I have been following many psychologists. Yeah. Lots of them actually. They've also mentioned that most of our trauma or things that we deal with and eventually start creating a reality also comes from childhood. And it's not always that parents intentionally do it, right? But for the child, because those 7 years, they start holding on to things unconsciously because they also don't know how to handle it or how
they're not well equipped. So you have to understand one thing. We have words, adults, we have ourselves that, this happened. Children don't have. They're observing. They're getting scared and they don't know how to express themselves. Sometimes you've seen children cry unreasonably, throwing they are called tantrums. In Singapore, they use the word tantrums. In the school I was working in US, you cannot use that word. Teachers used to get penalized for that. No, he's not throwing tantrum. He's unhappy. You sit down to their level and ask them, I'm noticing you're very sad. Can you tell me why you're unhappy? Is there anything I can do? Do you need a hug? That's it. Sometimes, I still remember this, my mentor taught me that. And there were 2 boys came across. These words, I'm noticing you're really sad. Do you need a hug? That's it. They would melt. 3-year-old, one was 4-year-old. They need to be heard.
Sometimes even adults behave like this.
It's a human nature, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, all need to be heard. We all need to be recognized, or we go through all of. So please understand this. A little while ago, what did I tell you? An American English system, how you learn the English language, they do essay writing, those topics in grade 1, 2, 3. They do it even in college. So human beings, the little children are miniature human beings. They have everything as they just don't know the world. So it's our job to make feel loved, protected, loved, supported, heard. Once we do these basic needs, they're happy. Then you teach them anything, they will learn. And children can pick up so much faster than us. They're smarter than us.
Fresh neurons.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So,
Think about it.
Yeah.
We crossed so.
We spoke so much, yeah. Think about all of this, then working to now owning a school and running a school.
That's a challenge.
How different is it?
It's a lot different. It's a lot different because the first and foremost thing is that I have studied and worked in the United States. So Singapore. I did work in Singapore earlier, which was a little different. So the main thing is that the work culture is very different. The way you treat children, the way things are done. So yeah, it's a transition. We are going through a transition. So it's not very easy. Last year was very, very difficult. This year, not that much, but we're
Right.
getting in.
Nice. So one element is definitely the cultural.
There's a lot of cultural difference. Yeah. Too much. That hit me very hard. I get to speak and I understand people. In the beginning, I didn't understand what people were saying to me. A lot of people didn't understand my connotations.
Apart from the cultural differences, are there any other challenges that you face while building? I mean, at the end of the day, this is a business.
Yes.
It's got to run, right? To be able to provide the value of the services you are providing.
Yeah. So the thing is that earlier, people didn't know me here. So they assumed certain things.
Right.
So when you're assuming certain things, you're not knowing. I also made a mistake that I recently did something that is called meet and greet. I invited all parents and I showcased what I'm doing. I did it last year when I took over. So when parents are aware of it, then they feel safe. Knowledge is power. Information is important. They didn't have the information. For them, it's like, and then I did come across people not cooperating, I would say teachers not understanding what my values are, to be clear. And then they were like, oh, we have been doing this for the last 10 years and it worked. Why should we change? So change is important. In order to stay in business, we have to think of quality. We have to think of children. Being progressive. So these things mattered. Yeah. So those are the challenges that I faced last year, but they're called teething issues. They are teething issues. But the thing I made really good friends. They're wonderful people I came across who came and helped me. But yeah, I did meet a lot of challenges. Yes. And then they were good. They were mixed bag. So that happened.
So tell me about a story around this, that really helped you take it to the next level or solve a big problem.
There was one big problem I would say is that how a school is run, because it's called EGDA in Singapore.
Yeah.
They have a guideline.
Yeah.
They have a guideline that you have to have two or three school events and stuff like that. You have to have excursions. They call learning journeys.
Yeah.
So these are the things that kept on, understanding that. So one of the teachers was really dear, and she really had a lot of sympathy on me, and she helped me. So that's what I'm saying. It's a mixed bag. Some of them just stayed on the sideline and criticized. Some of them came in for a help. And even parents, there were parents also, so this particular was a very important one. And then there was that was the graduation. And the tradition of the school, that graduation should be done in a certain manner. And I wanted to do it in a different manner. And I'm not really good with technology. So there was one parent, I do not know. I asked my husband to help and he always said, yes, and didn't work out. Before the graduation, there was this parent who came in and helped me create the whole thing done. He took time out from his personal time and he did that. And it will stick with me forever that he did it. And I just asked him one thing, that what can I do to repay you? And he was such a sweet guy. He said, no, nothing. You're Bengali, right? Just make kosha mangsho for me. You know what I did? The next day, I went to Mustafa, bought, and I cooked, and I went to his house and I brought it. I was like, you have done for me something I never expected. And I'm so grateful. And that is one thing I learned. Again, that was a big lesson learned. Creating a community is so important. And he was a complete stranger. He was always very sweet. He was a very sweet guy. But he came and helped. He saved me literally. Yeah. And so
Beautiful.
yeah.
I love these. I love these. Just like as a child grows, right? There is so many different influences on the child, and they're good influences.
Yes.
So you do need a community for the child as the child is growing. Similarly, a business is also like a child.
It's always. This is my baby actually, and
Right.
I work 7 days.
Yeah.
I do.
And a business does need
Attention.
attention. It does need the people who you never thought that would ever
Yes.
ever help you. So
Yeah.
it's a village.
It does. It does. It does.
Raise a
But
business.
to understand something, it does take a village, but you have to pick for the right people. There. Yeah.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. You know, point we're in this juncture where we're talking a little bit about serendipitous help, right? And serendipitous things
Yeah.
happening. So what are your thoughts on the fact that thoughts create reality? And second, do you think energy and matter are interchangeable?
Can I tell you something? When I first saw that matter and energy, I was like, physics. The first thing it came in my head was physics.
Yeah.
I learned it in physics. And the thing is that in my head, energy and matter are two different things, but they're interchangeable.
Yeah.
Because energy is not something you can touch, you can feel or see, experience from your senses. You can feel it, feel the energy. Matter is something that you can touch and see, but they both are interchangeable, isn't it? Because energy is something that can change matter. Basic science.
Yeah.
How do you think? You heat ice cube, and it changes
So
into,
something that you can't see anymore.
yeah.
Yeah.
It melts in water and then evaporates.
Yeah.
And then you hold a cold glass and you see the condensation happening.
Yeah.
So it's a cycle, right?
Yep.
When I read it, that's the first thing it came, that basically that's the thing.
Yeah.
They are. They're very much. And then that I'm talking to such a smart woman, so I need to have some other knowledge. And then I went and Googled it.
Yeah.
And what did I see? I saw Einstein, and there was one formula.
C².
Yeah, yes, I saw that. And I was like, you know what? I'm not really that smart. I'll stay away. But I saw the formula. Yeah, that is there.
And so linking back to the first part of the
Yeah.
question, do you think thoughts create reality?
They do. They do. Because I'm telling you something, you think of something. This is, I think, how do I put it? You think of something. This is something I have gone through several times. I had a feeling, I had a thought process, and I thought I had aspirations. Then I sat down and started making strategies. How? And I did that. So if you see how thoughts, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to teach. I wanted to create difference in a child's life. I wanted to feel, I wanted every child to feel important. It's very, very important for me. I want a child to feel that they can reach the moon. It's our job, as parents, as adults, as teachers. It's a very big responsibility for us to let them feel supported. And that was my thing, basically. It started with my daughter, and then eventually I kept on reading several books. And I kept on thinking that we are constantly wanting to make our children doctors or engineers or something. What we should do is that we need to support them to reach their highest potential, what they want to be. There was a time I was I was helping a family in US. They were during COVID. They needed support. I needed support. So because the schools were all closed and I needed to get the OPT and stuff like that. So this particular family they both went to MIT. The dad did MIT engineer, but Stanford MBA. Mom is MIT, Harvard MBA. Imagine the family, and they're all great, phenomenal. But when the child was with me, I did mention in my class, but I did mention this to them, that you're amazing in your profession. I'm never going to doubt it. I know my profession. I have a lot of education here. Trust me. And then one time I did say that I am not an engineer or a doctor, but guess what? I make them.
I love it.
And the mom gave me a hug. And the mom said, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, you reminded me of my teacher when they're Indian family. Americans, they have never lived in India all their life. They don't even speak Indian. But the thing is that she said, I remember my teacher, and how she helped me with science projects. And then eventually she became an engineer. And so she was like, she was very emotional. She said, "You are so right." I said, "You know what? I myself never thought that I can think this way," but which is true. We create environment. We teach children that you can do anything, and they do it. But every word that a teacher speaks, it resonates with a child.
It
So
impacts.
yes. So what comes out of your mouth has to be so important. So trust me, it's not that I had always been a wonderful parent to my daughter. I had been strict, but I made it clear to her every single day, you can do amazing things. Never give up. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Keep giving your very best. You're here to achieve. There were times when her GPA went down to 2 point something. Then we worked hard, got it together, and brought it up. And it's not been, I'm telling you, it's an easy journey. But the thing is that, and there was one thing, I don't know if you know, there was a TV series my daughter and I used to watch. It was called Grey's Anatomy. I don't know if you know that. There was this mom who always told her daughter, Meredith, you're not mediocre. I don't want you to be mediocre. You're here to make great things. And I love that. And I kept on saying, you're not mediocre. Maybe you are out here to do great things. But that's the thing, And we used to laugh at also. But the thing is that, yes. So don't think every child is very perfect in every way, but it's the parents and the teacher's job to. But my daughter was also very lucky. She had wonderful teachers in high school. I will never forget her vice principal, her science teacher, her English teacher, who were always had so much of sympathy on me that the dad does not live in the country. She's alone with the mom. So they created that safety net. Not just that, not just the teachers, there were friends who created that. She used to do taekwondo. They created that. Those people did that. And she made some wonderful friends and their families created that. And I also was very lucky, my Mochi, that family, they also were like a support system for us.
Yeah.
So when you say the village, it is true.
Yeah.
But guess what? I'm a girl who was not supported by my own village. So went out and I created a whole different village who actually supported me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's going back to the we were talking, thoughts do. Of course, create reality. And
that's how it all happened. That's all.
So I just deeper in one small aspect here.
Yeah.
I love it how you said that your daughter not just had it from you, but had an entire village that could support her at different stages of her life to reach her most highest self. And since we are on this thing where thoughts create reality.
Yes.
So she was able to create this for herself.
She actually did.
Right?
She did.
And I also know there are kids who, for traumatic childhoods or anger-filled childhoods, are not able to create this. They create really hostile environments in school, really hostile environments in college,
at home.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's that first 7 years that the child learns, think the thoughts as well. The consciousness is developing. That later impacts them in creating the village or creating the kind of environment that they're. Am I right or wrong?
You are actually right. Because this is very true though. You need to create an environment. Environment has a very big, impact on us. And that is all our early childhood is. So here in Singapore, what you have is the Sparkle Tots. That's the government run. In United States, they have not United States. In California, it has first 5. That's what they say, that it does not matter who you came from, where you came from, but they're creating the environment. Sing to your child, talk to your child, engage with your child, praise your child, protect them, make them feel safe and special. That's all you need. And they are brilliant in their own ways.
Yeah.
Then
they start doing things for themselves.
It's called self-soothing. So one thing I want you to know, when I go back, I think my father is responsible for that. Because he studied Montessori. Somewhere, a book.
Okay.
He picked up a magazine, I think while he was flying or something, or wherever. He picked up a magazine and he read about it, and he put me in a Montessori. So I went to a Montessori myself. I won't say he was not an authoritarian parent. He switched between authoritative and authoritarian. I'm the same way, But he did know that I'm the only child. I don't have brothers and sisters, pretty much like you. So he wanted me to be so strong that I should be able to, create that castle around me of self-protection, and I should be able to self-regulate. I'm not saying I'm successful in that. I'm still work in progress. But yes, I do, I know when I fall apart, I pull myself together And this is something I learned in US also from a friend, writing things down. I do that a lot. I always write. I write, these are my problems. I'm going to sort them one at a time. This is something I have to, which one is the priority? And then, do that. So, yeah, so thoughts matter a lot. If you're constantly thinking, if you surround yourself with people who are constantly thinking, telling you, you can't do it, you can't do it,
Yeah, then you'll believe it.
you start believing in it. And if you surround yourself with people telling you you can move mountains, there's a very good book, The Mountain in You. Everybody needs to read it. I just read it. I just finished it. But that is a very good example of how thoughts work. You can take it from me if you want.
Okay, I'll go and read that.
Yes.
The Mountain in You. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Wow. I have one question around children. Sorry, I'm sometimes jumping back between topics, but it's
Please,
just
please.
I have kept that in mind so far. While creating a nurturing environment, and we've discussed that is important. But how do you maintain strictness and boundaries with children?
Tell them. Speak to them. Just tell them.
Like,
They
for
listen.
example?
And have real consequences, reality-based consequences. Like,
Let's say, for example, I am a child and I have decided to go and, hit somebody, like just for fun, push a friend while playing, and thought that it was okay to do it. Maybe I picked it up from a movie or somewhere.
it happens. I'm telling you, there are two little children. I cannot take names.
Yeah.
There are two little children in my classroom. They're K1. They are always together. There's a boy and a girl. The boy goes home and talks all the time about this girl. And the girl goes home and talks all the time about this boy. But every time they're together, if she does not give him importance or attention, he retaliates. Do you know what I did? I said, okay, you guys are friends. Do you want to sit together? Do you want to work together? Yes. So if you're together and you cannot follow rules and you're not peaceful, guess what? You don't get to work together anymore. You're in two different places doing no group work together. You miss out. So then I created, so that they understand, and Montessori won't accept it, but this is something I improvised.
Yeah.
And I created a chart. Monday, if you're working together, if you are not being polite to each other and do something funny, Tuesday you don't get to work. Then if you're in the best behavior on Tuesday, Wednesday you get to work. There always has to be, yes. And in Montessori, we do not believe in giving stickers and smiley and all of that. No, that's bribing. Madam Montessori was very particular that children should be proud of themselves. So this is one thing that I learned, that, you are doing so well, that makes me happy. The teacher says, you cannot say that. Are you happy? The child's job is not to make me happy. The child's job is to make himself or herself happy. There should be a self-worth,
Yeah.
self-worth.
Otherwise, they'll keep looking for validation.
Validation. You don't want the validation. This has been a struggle for me. I was very particular with my daughter. I always told her, you're gorgeous. You don't have to do anything for someone tells you gorgeous. Yeah. You are gorgeous. You need to know it. But at the same time, I always was very careful that she's not proud of herself. Then it shouldn't be vain. You know what I mean? You should be self-reliant, not vain. So there's a very thin line. So that's why I'm saying it's so challenging.
It is, yeah.
It is very challenging. But, and we as parents and teachers are not always successful. Don't think. Like I recently found out, one of the teachers said, when Miss Saheli is there, children are very playful and they don't follow rules. I was like, because they know they always get the hug and this thing from me. Like during drop off, a girl came and said that, I got a cut. I said, you got a cut? Okay, fine. Let me give you a Band-Aid. Mom said, no, she likes to be pampered. I said, no, she likes to be noticed. Notice the child. And they said, I'll put you the Band-Aid, but then let's go to work. It's just a small thing. She's not asking for anything big. She just got hurt and she wants someone to see and said, you got hurt? You must be so brave. That's it. And the story ends there. But if you ignore it,
then that will go on.
That will create the emotional thing, a little bubble that you never know might come out. Like I'm telling you one thing, I made a mistake with my daughter. I chopped her. She used to have long hair. I chopped her hair off. That is because she was doing certain silly stuff, she was not unsafe, silly stuff, which she was not supposed to do. I was keeping on giving her messages. No, you can't do this. You can't do this. She didn't listen. So one day, I chopped her hair off. And that created so much. She still holds it to her heart. You cut my hair off. You cut my hair off. My mom still didn't forgive me for that. She had gorgeous hair. Not just that, to make it entertaining, I'm called the witch. And she's the Rapunzel.
Okay.
I cut her hair off. So yeah,
Okay.
so you need to understand. So all this talks that I'm saying,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm being very honest with you, I'm not perfect. Nobody has to be perfect. We're all trying our best in an ever-changing world to give our children the love and protection and support. And every parent, it's our duty to make sure that our children gets better life. That's all we're trying. Yeah.
Absolutely. I get it. You know, it's very hard to be strict. Like even if you have a reward and a punishment system that is there. I don't know if punishment is the right word.
It's not the right word.
Okay,
Yes,
what is the
it's
right
not.
word?
Consequences.
Consequences.
There always have
Yeah.
to be real consequences, like your every action.
You know, how do you make sure that these consequences don't seem like a punishment?
Sit down and have a conversation, just like adults.
Yeah.
Sometimes they won't get it. It's still okay. Still tell them. Still okay. You tell them. And then whatever you say, you have to follow through. Otherwise, they are fake words. Just like in a marriage, your husband says, I'm going to come back home and we'll have dinner together. I'll take you out for a candlelight dinner. And then you forget all about it. What happens? A marital discord.
Yeah.
Same thing. You say something, you don't follow through, your child stops trusting you or takes you seriously. That's all you need to do. Sickness does not have to be painful,
Yeah.
but there should always be conversations. I used to work with a man who told me, Saheli, the best time to talk is when you go on drives or when you're putting the child to sleep. So in American system, bedtimes are really important. When you lay with your child and you're trying to put the child to sleep, you read a book and you tell stories from your childhood. So when I was working in GIIS, they hired someone from India who came to train all the teachers about storytelling, the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
Tell a story from your childhood. I always told, and I love that so much, I always told stories from my childhood, my father's childhood, my husband's childhood, my father-in-law's childhood.
It's not some fake thing. It's a real.
No, they're real things.
Yeah.
You tell them. You tell your child you failed. In India, passing a grade and failing a grade is very important, right?
Yeah.
So in 8th grade, I failed. I didn't get promotion to 9th grade, so I had to change schools. That was very traumatic for me because that's when I realized. So I went to a very elite, good school, but I didn't fare. My father suffered a heart attack, so I was not independent. I was not an independent learner. At that time, I was very dependent upon my parents to come home and do homework. I didn't even know when is the test and all. Everything was controlled by my mom or evaluated and whatever was by my mom. I was not independent at all. And that didn't do me well. So when my father had a heart attack and he was very serious, so my mom's attention was him, not me, I fell through the crack. That taught me such an important lesson that when it was my child, the number one thing is to make her independent, that your homeworks, you are supposed to regulate. But it's not that you regulate. Somebody has to watch if she has done it or not, because end of the day, she's still a child. She still needs support. She still needs regulation, but at the same time, she needs to decide. So every Friday, my daughter and I would go out for dinners. We used to plan next week. Every Saturday morning, it was homework time. After finishing homework, it was taekwondo, and then it was doing all the chore. I want you to know I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
We did our laundry, we cleaned the house, we cooked, we did groceries. My daughter's responsibility was to write down what we need in the grocery list, she used to make the grocery list, and the place we used to go to shop was Costco, and it was very attractive, wonderful things, very cheap price, but I was on a budget, so I was not very well paid and all of that, and I didn't want to use my husband's resources, so I wanted to be independent. My daughter, she was the one who used to take care of it. She used to say, we are going to buy 5 to 6 things. This is what we need. Once it's done, mommy, don't buy anything. And I say, oh, but that looks nice. No, mommy, we're crossing our budget. But if you know, it's not just, I was also preparing her for college.
Yeah.
If she has to go to college, she has to budget, you know?
She could be a good CFO in a company.
I hope so. Not me. I'm not good with money. I'm not.
But
she helps
like
me.
It's cool. I do want to ask you more about first step, right? Tell me. So we've heard about you, about what you do at First Step, but there are so many different Montessori schools as well in Singapore. What is your vision with First Step, and what makes First Step different from others? So what do you do things differently?
Okay. Number one is the reason I bought First Step was because the previous owner was my English teacher.
Okay.
She taught my daughter how to read. So I didn't look too much in deep about the curriculum, what was practiced, and whatever it was. I didn't see it just because it was her school. I took it. Yeah. I took it along with the teachers. I did not see much about the curriculum. And later I got in it and I did research, of course. I saw the parents' handbook, I saw the registration forms, and whatever it is, I didn't see it. It was very impressive for me. The most important thing that I saw about it is that the price. It's good education, really reasonable price. Really good education. That is my vision.
Okay.
If you have to survive, if you have to grow, what should be? There's a wonderful book that I did not read it. I heard it as an audiobook. What will Steve Jobs do? I don't know if you heard it. You have to read it. Yes. I can look to my list. Yes. Okay. Oh, they're long. Yeah, you come to my house one day. I clean my house. Then you come to my house. I'll show you my collection. But this is something I downloaded. Was listening when I was flying to US. Yeah. Generally, when I travel, either I read or I listen. Uh, that was a very good lesson that you can learn from that. BlackBerry was already there. Nokia was there. Motorola was there. Why would people buy an iPhone? Because it was six. It was giving, it's so pricey, so much more pricey. They gave something that is good quality, even if it was pricey. They gave something that is such good quality that people it's there. You don't need to buy a separate iPod or I mean for listening to music. You don't need a Kindle. You can read your book in iBooks. It's one equipment, one phone, and you have so many features in it. You have your planner, you have this. It's amazing. And we talked about necessity is the mother of invention. You need all of these things. Apple people saw to it what your needs are, created a problem, solved the problem, and handed to you, and you took it. In my case, my price is really less compared to the other Montessori schools that are neighbor. So my thing is quality. I'm going to give it. So that I'm very determined. What I started was STEM. So I got trained from Lawrence Hall of Science by for 6 months how to bring science in preschool. And STEM is, and trust me, it's very simple. It's no big gadgets. You don't need a science lab for this. Children love it just to see, a bunch of Skittles. You put hot water around and they create a rainbow. They're excited. Children love it when you soak one egg over the weekend and next Monday when you come, you soak an egg in vinegar and you take it out and it has become transparent, translucent. Yes, yes, yes. Not but then you teach the children this is an egg, you drop it in cracked, you boil an egg, you have to cut it. It's different. And then you soak an egg in vinegar, it's different. But you cannot bounce it too much, then it will, again crack and, there will be so much mess to clean up. But they are understanding properties, which is also science. You understand? Yeah, the basic of science. The basic of science. We are not telling it's science. We are not telling the formulas. Yeah. But we are just showing it. Then one thing that is so popular with children is the volcano. Oh yeah. I did that as well. You did? Yeah. So the child that I was talking about, MIT and parents, she still remembers. Do you know? At that time when I taught her, she was 4 years old. Now she is in elementary. I still get messages from the family. Yeah. That whenever she sees vinegar and pickle, she says, "Do you remember Miss Saheli what she did? The volcano. Do you remember?" Yeah. And the mom texts me also. We have moved to New Jersey. Yeah. So, but then she texts me, "Do you know Miss Saheli yesterday she talked?" So that is the impression you create. That is how much powerful early childhood is. Yeah. So every teacher, every adult needs to be mindful. So anyway. Yeah. No, I still have very nice and fond memories of my teachers growing up as well. And I think aspirations from foundations. Some of them I still message once in a while. Or I do some random posts on LinkedIn and they're there. Yeah. Isn't that nice? And it's fantastic. No, so it's a very responsible. I feel the way I look. I take it. Yeah. Take it as a very big job. See, so yes, as you are trying to say, first step, that is one thing that I want. Should not be a school for only for worksheets. I have a big problem with that. Because you live in Singapore, you have popular in every station, every shopping mall, there's a popular. Yeah. You want to make your child read and write, go get a book, get it done. Why are you sending your child to my school? Is not just to give your child love and support and cuddles. My job is also make sure they learn hands on, they paint, their emotional needs are met, they become independent, and they're happy. And they learn something new every day. It has to be something new every day. Yeah. You know? So that is what. But I will never compete. I don't believe in that's also very Montessori. We don't believe in competition, schools, because whatever they're doing, their business. What I'm doing is all the education that I have, all the experiences that I have, I'm putting it together and created a curriculum because I've seen this works. I've seen successful children. This whole thing though, one of my students just got in Harvard back. Yeah. And I'm so proud of her. And that little girl was only 3 years old when I taught her 100 word, then counting 1 to 100. 2.5? No, she was 3 years old. And when she came to my class, she was a very pretty girl. Mom is beautiful. Mom also is a Harvard graduate, though. But she's a very pretty little girl who had always wore pretty little clothes. And on 200, I taught her addition and subtraction. And a few months ago, when I saw she got in Harvard math, I was like, and the sweetest part thing is that I taught 3 children 2 children from that family. And the youngest brother also I taught. So the mom is like, she recognizes. So that makes me happy. I did not make sure that she went to Harvard. She has gone through preschool and middle school, elementary, middle school, high school. Then she went to Harvard. But she was with me when she was 3 to 4, and she loved math. So that much is there.
That's brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. I think this was a wonderful episode on everything about early childhood and your journey. Gonna be the link to first step here.
Yes.
In this episode, so check it out in the description below. And I think that's the best way to reach out to you.
Yes, that's good. The website, Facebook is the best way to reach.
Facebook is the best that we need to.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. This is a really good book that you get it in popular or you can get it in. This has really good from a very young child. If you read the book, and it really helps.
Okay.
And
so it's how to raise an amazing child the Montessori way. Comes recommended.
Yeah.
I know some of my friends are parents, recent parents in fact.
They will definitely benefit a lot. It will be a very big support for them. Okay. Because Montessori is not that I am going to teach you. They don't have like only those people who are, say, the franchisee. They don't have it. They're in proper full-time education.
Yeah.
So they have philosophy, and those are the philosophies that I spoke about. So this is a very good read.
That philosophy.
Yes. Yeah. So this book is definitely a very big help. And the other one, and these are for teachers. This book was written by this lady, Paula. She is amazing. This is mainly for teachers. And in this book, the reason why I love this book is it made me realize that technically if you see a preschool and that to a Montessori preschool, it has to have a playground. They're very fancy. Cater's wealthy. The school I worked for earlier was really wealthy. Then I realized the whole purpose of Montessori was not for a section of the society.
Yeah.
It has to be for everybody.
That's actually the image as well when you talk about Montessori. It's like, elite school.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good education. I want good education to be connected to the word Montessori. It's basically good education.
Yeah.
But should be in affordable prices. I think that is something I am a believer of. That's what first step is standing for. I mean, I'm sticking to that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is something I'm sticking with. And this particular book is Powerful Literacy in a Montessori Classroom. This is also for the teachers. Basically, I got it for my teachers and to show them how it goes. Some of them are very keen on it, some of them are not very keen on it. But then the thing is that this is just a book and I have the knowledge, so I guide them. Not everybody is into reading books.
Yeah.
And this particular book, there are these 2 books. This basically I bought for my daughter. And she is a very famous Indian woman who, being a woman, very successful and very successful. And she actually traveled to United States, a young Indian girl faced with lots of challenges about food and several challenges. If you read it, you'll know. So one of the most important thing that I would say it's about perseverance, determination. I I'm not like her. I don't have it. I do not have the CEO mindset because I'm a teacher. End of the day, it I I don't consider myself a businesswoman so much so, more of an educator. Little, yes, I have to pay my bills.
Yeah.
So I have to be there.
The math right.
Yes, I do have to keep the math right.
Yeah.
So that I do, but at the same time, I'm more of a heart. And this particular lady is amazing for me, and I didn't know anything about her until I watched that movie, The Battle of Sexes. And it was an eye opener, that movie, about her. She was the first woman went to Harvard Law School, where women were not allowed generally to get in Harvard Law because you are taking the seat of you're going to get married, have children, and then go home and bake cookies for a bake sale. You're not going to cook. You're going to cook and clean and be an elite wife.
Yeah.
Why are you wasting a spot? She was a horrible cook. Her husband was a good cook. But she changed the philosophy. She made it so big. She went to Supreme Court, fought her case, and she made it happen. So she's an amazing lady. And these women make a lot of difference in my life, in my daughter's life. I wanted her to know that you're a woman, and I don't want you to be at the same time. You know what you want, and you can go for it. So these books I bought for her, and this particular book is very important. I'm still reading it. This is about unequal childhood because this talks about children coming from different economic backgrounds. When you're from a wealthy family who can give you everything, you have enormous, access to a lot of things. And then you come from a middle class, your parents are working hard to give you everything, and they are also wanting to keep you on track. And then there are the working class. I'm working class, but what Americans call working class is that lower middle class or the make it happen. For them, they basically, what do they do in order to make children successful? So everyone, they have challenges, but you can turn that's the books.
Okay, thank you. And one last question then for you is, so if there was, one thing from your childhood or family that you could tell us about it.
Yes, that was my grandmother saying. It's a Bengali word, and she said, "Je rante, she chulo bante." That means a woman who cooks at home also ties her hair. So at that time, in those days, women were not working people. So her way of saying is that a woman can do anything under the sun on earth. So given if you're given something to do, if you have an objective, you can do it.
Just like Indeed.
Yes.
Okay. With that, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a good day.
Yes.